Recognize that? Has a lot to do with, well, yes, I'll just tell you the whole story. It is Friday the 24th, second to last Friday. Next week is Halloween around here, of October, of course. And a lot of things on my mind. I got a lot of news today, and probably not as much playing as last time. But you never know what we're going to talk about. So did you recognize that? Got it? You recognize this? Let's see. Got Jim Croce on the brain because a couple weeks ago we started talking about other Jim Croce songs that, a couple weeks ago we announced that tomorrow, the 25th, I'm doing a Jim Croce special, and at 11 o'clock, and so you may not see this till after it's over. So if you missed it, it will be added to the Jim Croce pack. Was I about to say James Taylor? Because we did one of those a while ago. But we'll do like about an hour special talking about mostly intros to some of his songs. And you have to opt in first. It's also going to be limited to 100 people because that's our Zoom limit for right now. And so the first 100 people, we've got about 150 opted in. But so if you get there too late, you're going to miss it. But the link is, or at least the opt-in link, should have been in an email that you got if you're on our mailing list. So, but what we're going to talk about is some of his rockin' tunes. And how they relate to 12-bar blues, but very few of them actually fall into 12-bar blues things. So we'll look at that one. We'll look at this one. If you don't recognize what those are, you'll find out tomorrow. What's another rockin' one of his? Oh. So those are some of the rockin' ones, but we're going to take a look at some of the really cool ballads as well. And that one I played at the beginning is one that we don't have a lesson on yet, but there probably will. That was called, that's New York's Not My Home. Beautiful, descending little melody. Anyway, we'll talk about that tomorrow. Very similar to David Gates' tune. I'm sure you can figure out which one I'm talking about in terms of the progression there. But we'll probably look at this. Maybe this. Probably not any of the second guitar parts, but in a lot of the lessons, like my lesson on Time in a Bottle and Operator, those might be the only two that have really detailed looks at the second part. So that is it, the Jim Croce intros and riffs special tomorrow, October 25th, 11 o'clock Pacific time. And this week we had, let me tell you about the newest thing that we just got finished with today, as a matter of fact, is my friend Robert Witmeyer, who I've mentioned before, is the proprietor of the local guitar store that used to be, it's Keith Holland's Guitar Hospital. My old friend Keith Holland eventually sold the business to Robert. And Robert has a phenomenal band, trio, called Djangatos. So they play Django Reinhardt style gypsy jazz. And Robert is an incredibly good guitar player. I saw them play here in Santa Cruz just a couple months ago and was not planning on staying for the whole thing. Oh, if he watches this. But I did because I couldn't leave. It was so cool. And they do a lot of standards, All of Me, stuff like that, Summertime, and do them with a gypsy jazz feel. But he did put together, back in June, we recorded a workshop that he put together at his shop of just Robert's intro to jazz. And so this is like a 6-part thing. It lasted about 2 hours. And we now have that available here. It's up for all of our subscribers, have access to it already, but we're also, you might want to just pick it up on your own. And we're running, we've got an introductory sale price on it going on right now. So Robert's Intro to Jazz is worth checking out. We had a few new tunes. Nesh brought us a new artist, somebody who's been around for a really long time, but once again, somebody that we have neglected here at Totally Guitars, and that was Enya. And she, a beautiful tune, Only Time. and just this hauntingly cool tune. So that was one of our big additions. I finally got around to one I was teasing you about a few weeks ago, right? Took a little longer than I thought because I got sidetracked. Anyway, so Drive My Car is now up, and with a complete math breakdown of that intro that is very confusing. The first 500 times you listen to it, it's really hard to figure out the way the beats go in there. If you watch my lesson, it's demystified. And I had a lot of requests over the last month or two to finish up this. And this is a song I recorded on my Beatles album back 30 or 40 years ago. But it wasn't very well worked out, and I do have that's in my book of Beatles arrangements, but it was in a medley with a bunch of other things, so I didn't play all of the different parts in it. And what I finally did over the last couple of weeks was decided, and there's only one other song I've done an arrangement of where I played the whole song from beginning to end with the same number of verses, the same number of repeats, and everything that was on the original, but without any vocals. And the other one was God Only Knows. There we go. Because there was just so much in that hearing the whole thing instrumentally without the lyrics still made it fabulous. So with I'll Be Back, what I tried to do, so I don't have a lesson on this yet, but I did get I put together a snapshot of it, of me just playing it. And that was for many of the lessons that I do, that's the biggest thing is sometimes coming up with a playthrough that really shows what I'm going to do in the lesson. And so what was cool about this, the evolution of I'll Be Back, is that they of course have a lot of harmony going on in it. And so what I did was in the first verse played just what I consider the melody. And again, with a little bit more accompaniment the second time. Oh, don't add the harmony yet. That happens later. But now in the second verse, bring in another harmony part in thirds. Instead of the melody just being this, we hear this. And trying to keep that going with the bass. And a second time through that. Then we have the bridge. I already played the chorus once, but then we have a bridge that does have a nasty stretch in it. Then in the third verse, that nasty stretch, by the way, was a B minor chord with an open E on the top, and then we need an A sharp in the bass. And as I'm getting older, that hurts. But I didn't come up in the lesson. I hope to come up with. You could live without it. That's the important thing. You could just do. So we'll have a way to simplify that a little bit when I get to the lesson. Then in the third verse, trying to bring in 3 voices. All 3 of those melody notes while the bass is happening in there. Whoa. high E added in there to every one of those, which I think probably was George Harrison doing it. So anyway, so that was a really fun project, and now that I've got the melody, the playthrough kind of finished, I'm ready to get working on the lesson. Hope to get to that next week. Want to thank somebody who helped me out last week. It crossed my mind that I had messed around with the 12 Days of Christmas a little bit before, and somebody at YouTube, or one of our comments, came back and said, yeah, it was from December 4th of 2023, the weekly update. And what I thought I'd had in there, so that was really helpful because I went back and looked at it to see what I'd already come up with. And I guess I thought I had it more developed than I did. But it at least got me back on the right track, because well, here's what it's going to sound like, and I hope to get to this in the next week or two. Like a little intro. What are we going to do here? And then the first day. Let's try the second, see if that comes out better. There we go, that's the fingering I got to use. Anyway, by the time we get to the fifth, it'll be something like this. So, hope to get to that soon, because if anybody wants to work on it, you got to, like I mentioned last week, you got to be working on Christmas stuff by Halloween, or it's not gonna come together. Let's see. I think that was all I was going to talk about today. So, what would be another good tune to try right now? Let's see. I played enough Croce tunes. Somebody did ask about our camper Stephen, about coming up with a solo version of "I'll Have to Say I Love You" in a song. Now, I think I've played this before here, but it's a great example. I'll go back into Croce for a second here. It's a great example of a picking pattern that he uses fairly regularly with his right hand, and that is the same thing that we hear in "If You Could Read My Mind," similar. An arpeggio with three bass notes in it. So you can start working on that pattern so I was just playing an A major 7 there, which major 7 chords have the real 7th of the scale in it. So you probably know A7, and if you're not up on major 7 chords, in an A7 chord you have G natural. So every chord called 7, the 7th note that gets added to the chord is always a whole step below the 8th note, which is the root. I'm sure a lot of you know this already, but couldn't hurt to brush up on the difference between 7th, major 7th, and minor 7th. I guess I'm going to go into this right now. And so you've played G7 before, and you make a G7 by adding an F, the note a whole step below the root, G. And we call that a flatted 7th because the real 7th in a G scale would be F sharp, because 7 to 8 is always a half step. That's where our half steps occur. So when you play a 7th chord, you're playing a note not in the key of the root. It's a flatted 7th, not a real 7th. Now, so if I take that, instead of playing an F here, I play the real 7th, F sharp, I now have the major 7th chord. So the formula for a major 7th chord is 1, 3, 5, 7, the real 7th, half step away from the 8th, and the chord we call 7 or dominant 7 is 1, 3, 5, flat 7. Okay, so I was opening up here with an A major 7 chord. And you might ask, well, what is a minor 7th chord? It's a minor chord to begin with. So we have a flatted 3rd in it. and then we add a flatted seventh to it. So the formula for a minor seventh chord is 1, flat 3, 5, and flat 7. So A major 7 is A, C sharp, E, G sharp. A7 would have G natural in it, and A minor 7 would have the third flatted from C sharp to C, still with the G in it. So there's the 3 big chords. Now, this is an important chord, this A minor 7, because we may use it for B minor 7 and a C sharp minor 7 and a D minor 7, all in the intro to I'll Have to Say I Love You in a Song. Okay, back to the pattern though. A major 7 and thumb, index, and the top 2 strings together. So you need 3 fingers for this. So we played a set of 3 eighth notes. Then the same, another set of 3, but with the 6th string in the bass. And then back to the 5th string in the bass, and only 1 finger. There was 8 notes, 8 individual strikes. Now the last note, the single 8th note played with your index finger at the end, is never going to come out very clear in something like this because you're changing chords. So if I listen carefully, I'll do it slowly, and the last note on my A chord, it's going to be open, but it's not going to ring like that. It's going to be dead because as soon as I hit it, I'm going to be putting down a bar. So it goes from A major 7 to C sharp minor 7 to B minor 7, then to D minor 7 for 4 eighth notes, and an E7 kind of played out of the C7 shape. But you don't even need all those notes down because he doesn't play all those strings. So, just a little teaser as to what we're going to be talking about tomorrow is breaking down things like that, like just the intros to many of his tunes. Although with some of them we might go all the way through the progression. I think with You Don't Mess Around with Jim, Leroy Brown, and probably Roller Derby Queen. We'll talk about the whole progression. So I'm going to try to squeeze in 5, 6, 7 different songs of Jim Croce's tomorrow, 11 o'clock Pacific time. Join us, and if you don't and you've opted in for it, you'll still be able to watch it later. We will record it, and it'll be available to everybody that opts in before we start it. Okay, see you soon.